Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the LWN Network with me, your host of Headline Hits, Tammy Nation. Thanks for being here this Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Before we get into headlines, I have a few things I want to update you on. Number one, our LWN news feed is down. If you haven't noticed already or subscribed on Rumble, we are working on some different aspects to get that cleaned up and looking and being a little bit better and more consistent. So the news feed is down. As far as LW's personal page and his Facebook professional page, both of those are still down and compromised. I have one more person I am going to get a hold of today when I'm done with the headline hits, and he is going to help me and see if there's anything we can do to get his Facebook page back up and running. Excuse me. Unfortunately, what happens is when you have a personal page and you create a business page, it comes off of your personal page. So what happened was his personal page was attacked and hacked, and that tied into him not having access to that or access to his LWN page. Now, I still have access to his business page, the LWN page, but the thing is, we aren't putting anything there because it is compromised, and the people that attacked him were then actually Facebook message calling me and trying to get a hold of me and saying they can fix the page, and they were hackers trying to get into my account as well. So in the meantime, there is no LWN page on Facebook or his personal page, but you can subscribe to Tammy Nation if you want updates, stories. I try to keep everybody updated and post things on there as we move on. Like I said, I'm going to try to get and see if I can get his page back with the person that is a computer expert to help me. But he basically said that when people get into your Facebook, you pretty much do have to start a new page. Now that's going to be tedious as well because we have almost 15,000 subscribers on the LWN network page on Facebook. So once again, it's us starting over. We are still battling, if it's not censorship, we are battling people that unfortunately want to do bad. You know, hackers out there. If you noticed, they actually took down all the things for sale that were on his page, and they put up a car, some kind of car that they're selling now. That was 3 days ago, and they're wanting deposits. And make sure you don't interact with his personal page or the LWN network page, because we don't want anybody else to be hacked. We don't want anybody to waste money and put deposits down on things that they think LW is selling, because unfortunately that did happen with some people. They didn't reach out to LW first. They didn't look at the cell phone number that was put on there to secure the deposit because it wasn't his cell phone number, and they did get taken for their money, and unfortunately it's not coming back. So as we keep battling the things that complications or blocks that come in our way, thank you for having patience with us. We are trying to get this rectified. If there is going to be a new Facebook page created, we're going to obviously keep you posted on that, but it's also recommended that if we can't get his personal page and professional page fixed, that we wait a little bit before we put a new Facebook page up, because unfortunately the hackers are able to then access that for whatever reason, because it's happened to somebody that LW knew. He put a new Facebook page up, they hacked that right away. So that's what I have for you today as far as updates on the Facebook pages, on the LW news feed network on Rumble. But the good news is we're still here up on Rumble. We're on Twitter, and we are on YouTube. So thank you for subscribing and joining us on those platforms. I know that sometimes it's really hard to change a platform, but sometimes it is necessary. So let's go ahead. After this, we're going to get into the headline hits for this Tuesday, April 22nd, 2022. You don't want to miss it. There's some doozies in this one today. I'll be right back. Okay, first up, we have Andrew Cuomo. He's facing some heat. Remember him? Well, House Oversight Chairman James Comer yesterday sent a resubmitted criminal referral to Attorney General Pam Bondi, demanding the Department of Justice pursue charges against the former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for lying under oath during a pandemic-era investigations. The letter addressed directly to Bondi accuses Cuomo of violating a federal statute prohibiting false statements to Congress. Now, we assumed a lot of things, we saw a lot of things, but this is what has happened. As time has moved on, we have this new administration. The Oversight Committee has been doing all these investigations into the past of what things have been said and done. And now we are seeing the charges being brought against people. And I know that we want to see them in cuffs and put away for the atrocities that they put against the citizens and our family members and our friends who lost so many things that are really you can't regain due to the decisions that were made corruptedly by some of these people. But the good news is we're starting to see some movement. So on October 30th, 2024, the letter states the Select Subcommittee in the Coronavirus Pandemic referred former governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, for making criminally false statements. To our knowledge, the Biden administration ignored this referral despite clear facts and evidence. Accordingly, we request you review this referral and take appropriate action. For your reference, the referral is attached to this letter. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is the principal oversight committee of the U.S. House of Representatives and has a broad authority to investigate any matter at any time under House Rule X. The criminal referral centers on Cuomo's claim that he played no role in drafting a now infamous New York State Department health report that cleared his administration of wrongdoing over its deadly nursing home policy. We remember the horrific and sad stories that came out of that. Governor Cuomo in New York in 2020 implemented programs that ordered sick COVID patients back into elderly homes in the state. As a result, thousands of elderly people needlessly died in that state. When the official counts of deaths in that state nursing homes were requested from the DOJ, the numbers were messed up and fudged. They were not true. The numbers reported were about 50% less than the real counts. That is devastating. An investigation into Cuomo's actions was put in place, and Cuomo resigned as governor of the state. However, the investigation into illegal actions by Cuomo related to the huge number of nursing home deaths was dropped by both the Biden DOJ and the Manhattan DA. So those two organizations dropped these charges. Andrew Cuomo is a man with a history of corruption and deceit, now caught red-handed, lying to Congress during the Select Subcommittee's investigation into the COVID-19 nursing homes tragedy in New York, said Chairman Comer. This wasn't a slip-up. It was calculated. It was a cover-up by a man seeking to shield himself from responsibility for the devastating loss of life in New York's nursing homes. Let's be clear, lying to Congress is a federal crime. Mr. Cuomo must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The House Oversight Committee is prepared to fully cooperate with the Justice Department's investigation into Andrew Cuomo's actions and to ensure he's held to account. So Gateway Pundit does actually have the complete timeline of the Oversight Committee's investigation, and it's worth a look because there has been a lot going on that maybe we haven't heard of or followed along. But if you go to Gateway Pundit and you look up the Andrew Cuomo story, you're going to find the exact timeline of dates and details, and it's worth a look. It's knowledge is power, as I always say. It resupplies us with the hope that things are being done, action is being taken against the people that did so wrong to those of us American citizens at the time. So as we continue on to the next story, Hillary Clinton is exposed for approving the Russia hoax lie. We've heard all about this for years. We just think there's nothing that's ever going to happen. But however, Hillary Clinton has been directly connected to the Russia hoax. Even though we knew it, there's a process to be followed. As Hillary's former campaign manager, Robbie Mook, was testifying under oath, Durham got him to admit that Hillary Clinton personally approved pushing a fake story about Trump and the Russians. The story was about Trump and a Russian bank, and the story was made up, and the people on the Clinton side knew it was made up. But because they're the ones who made it up, they knew it was made up, but they still pushed the story out there. Mook testified that the Clinton campaign wasn't totally confident the story was real, because it wasn't, but they wanted the media to write about it anyway. Mook asked Hillary if she wanted him to plant the story with a reporter, and Hillary said yes. And then when it hit the internet, what she did was retweet it and spread the Russian hoax further, and it was like wildfire. We remember that. That's all we heard about. That's all we saw about. That tweet was a blatant disinformation tweet, and it's still up on her Twitter. While all this was happening, Hillary was paying her lawyer, Michael Sussman, remember him, to trick the FBI into opening an investigation into Trump based off the same bogus claims. Hillary Clinton is one dirty politician. We know that, but now we're getting proof of it. And basically, if I were Robbie Mook, I would watch my back for calling Hillary out on the stand. I'm glad that he finally did. However, we know what happens to the people that are around the Clintons when they go against them. But I'm hoping that this gains fire, that there is justice to be served, and maybe she ends up proven guilty, then she is going to be in handcuffs. That's what people want someday. Obviously, she has a right to go through the justice system, proven guilty or innocent, depending on the justice system, right? But we have to clear that justice system out. We have to clear these judges out. We have to get them righted, because we've seen the feedback, pushback, and negativity that has been going against this Trump administration with some of these federal judges for a while. We know that Alito and Clarence Thomas just put out a scathing statement against some of these other justices that are going against the Trump administration for wanting to deport these illegals. So I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed, prayers up, and I think that maybe the time to pay the piper is coming near for Hillary Clinton. Up next, we have Robert Kennedy Jr. is going to announce a major shakeup in the U.S. food industry today. The food dyes linked to cancer and many other issues. There are at least 7 dyes that fall into this category: blue 1, blue 2, green 3, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. RFK Jr. has very informative and alarming video on this regarding the foods that we eat and the dyes we just listed, saying it is no coincidence that Americans die earlier than Canadians, Germans, Italians, Japanese, Koreans, Australians, or most any other comparable country. And it wasn't always that way. Until the early 1900s, our life expectancy was the same or better than other developed countries. And then suddenly more and more Americans began suffering from chronic diseases, from obesity, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and all kinds of autoimmune disorders. And maternal mortality rates are soared to the highest in any developed country on earth. Same with the infant mortality, like the frog and the slowly boiling water. We didn't really notice as we got sicker and sicker. It's a slow process, but now we've grown to accept chronic diseases as the normal. But in 2024, we're finally waking up that this is a catechism and we are not normal to be able to believe this normal, all these diseases, all these autoimmune disorders. But the thing is, when a big part of it is our diet, obviously, we've been talking about that for a long time. Our diet is bad. It's processed foods. Or when the government approves the poisons in our food, there's very few people get very few people get very rich. And that's what happens. It's like a whole money in the pocket scheme. And basically, the toxins end up in every supermarket aisle. So some examples that Robert Kennedy Jr. gives in this video, which seek it out, it is a wonderful video, includes simple things like Doritos, cheeses, Captain Crunch, gummy bears. And we know that these are junk foods, but we maybe are going to be surprised to know that these ingredients include a harmful yellow dye. It's called yellow dye number 5. And what we don't know, that dye was originally made out of this sludge that is left over when you turn coal into coke from blast furnaces, and it's called coal tarrant. So some of these words, coal tarrant, you probably never heard of it, but the sludge is burnt in these furnaces, blast, and it forms this coal tarrant. Well, RFK Jr. stated that he actually sued many big industries, the legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country, because he said it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. He said a century ago it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. And one of the ways they did that was paving roads. Can you imagine? This is what's in our food, this yellow dye. They used this chemical after the burn to pave roads. But he said British Gas figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? So they used it to derive a fabric dye, and then they used it for a dye in food. And he said what happened was food manufacturing began to use it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. He said this yellow dye causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries. And he said this is just one of the dyes they allow in our foods that we feed ourselves and our children. A lot of this is in children's vitamins, it's in macaroni and cheese, and it goes on and on. The list is it's unimaginable that our government allows this one dye, let alone the other ones I listed at the beginning, in our foods all these times and all these years. And you look at all the different diseases and side effects from it. It's just disgusting. He said we need to all immediately understand that these chemicals need to be taken out and our nation would get healthier immediately. He said past administrations chose to mostly ignore these poisons in our foods as there is a lot of money to be made, along with the pharmaceutical companies who handle the medicines to treat these issues and side effects and diseases that people develop from these foods. He said there's billions and billions of dollars to be made. So the good news is R.F. Kennedy Jr. says that President Trump and him are all in to make America healthy again. So we're going to see what comes out today in his announcement regarding the attack on the food industry and this toxic poison that they're putting in our foods, not just for us, but for children. Next up, we have presidential advisor Stephen Miller spoke out on Saturday stating these following things. And I'm telling you, he didn't hold back. If you haven't heard this, he said, ordinary Americans deserve reparations for the establishment's hugely destructive and decades-long immigration policy. We all deserve reparations for what has been stolen from us. It is a tragedy that defies our ability to even describe it. Miller explained the case after he was told that Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse had suggested that Americans pay reparations to Kilmore Garcia. Yep, that's the deported illegal migrant from El Salvador who is credibly charged in being a wife beater and human trafficking member of the MS-13 gang. He said, where are these damages for Americans? He also added, where do I even begin? Where do I even start? We used to have a functioning public school system in this country. Then we had open borders. Now our schools in chaos and disarray. We need hundreds of translators. Nobody's learning how to read or write. We had an entire generation of Americans, multiple generations, in fact, robbed of educational opportunities. Look at Los Angeles, once a paradise of safety, security, and prosperity. Entire neighborhoods are occupied and controlled by foreign gangs. Where do all the residents who have been displaced, who've been forced from Los Angeles, where do they go to get their reparations? And then what about the victims of fentanyl poisoning brought in by Democrats' open border? The hundreds of thousands of moms and dads whose kids are dead and buried in the ground. Where do they put their reparations? To government. And then all the women who have been raped, who have been beaten, who have been murdered, all the dads who have been shot dead are in our home, all the police officers who have been slain by illegal aliens in ambush attacks in the line of duty. Where do any of these people go? Where do any of their families get reparations? Or the 500,000 children that Joe Biden trafficked across the southern border and put into the hands of unvetted so-called sponsors. Do you know the stories I can tell you of the children that were trapped across our border and raped because of the policies of Joe Biden? He continued to say there aren't enough volumes that could fit into a library to calculate the carnage that has been inflicted by the Democratic Party's policy of open borders. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to document those harms. Where does our whole country go to get repaid for all the wealth, all the prosperity, and all the security that has been stolen from us by decades of uncontrolled illegal mass migration? Because we all deserve reparations for what has been stolen from us. It is a tragedy that defies our ability to even describe it. So kudos to the president's advisor, Stephen Miller, to speak out and be so harsh, because this is true. These are truths that some of the left, some of these judges that are in support of these illegal criminals coming back here or staying here, they are fighting for them to stay here. All these atrocities that I just read through and listed happen to our American citizens from these bad policies. And these judges are sticking up for them. And it's important that we know, and we don't say, well, everybody has rights. You don't have a right to be here illegally, to be a criminal coming here, causing chaos in this country. There's no freedom of rights there. So kudos to Stephen for sticking up for us. And it was an amazing, strong statement, but I'm all for it. We're not playing games anymore. We're not being easy. No, enough has happened to us where enough is enough. And I'm so thankful that there's so many people in this administration trying to right the wrongs, trying to clean things up. And mind you, they're putting themselves in harm's way, because these people that have had control and have had these policies don't want to go without a fight. They're going to stand up and they're going to try to keep that money bag full for them. And these corrupt policies, these votes that they want to have from these illegals, they pay them for their votes, and it goes on and on. Now we have the last article, which I think is very, very important. If you haven't seen it, I did post it on my Facebook page as well. But if you can, go to whitehouse.gov and take a look at the Oversight Committee's findings on their COVID investigation. While there's a lot of it that we already thought, knew, or figured out, the findings are staggering. The amount of data and information they have listed on there and the different puzzle pieces they put together is incredible. Under the origin, as you head into the website, there's 5 points on there, right at the first page. First statement says that the virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Second, the data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. Number 3, Wuhan, we've heard about that, is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene altering, and organism supercharging and inadequate biosafety levels. So they have his history of doing all this research in an unsafe, inadequate level. So it means biosafety levels are not meeting standards. Number 4, Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. Number 5, in nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. But guess what? All these years later, it still hasn't surfaced. So the complete oversight report is there for you to download as well. Tons of information, tons of details, tons of data. And I believe it's incredibly important that we know this so we can move forward, not just say, I told you so. Remember, this is accurate data and information that has come to fruition after the releasing of the information, the Oversight Committee's investigation into articles that were hidden, to documents that were almost destroyed, to different comments Fauci and the others had made. And it's not just the oversight report you can download or the first 5 items that I listed for you. It goes on to show a picture of Fauci and the different things that he has done or said. And it has so much information on there. This is, I think, the evidence and the information we've been waiting for so very long. But obviously, we had an administration that didn't want us to find that out. We have many people that don't want us to find this out because it's going to take a lot of people down. If they are proven guilty and they've committed crimes against humanity, they will be taken down. So believe you me, they will try and fight and scratch and scream to keep things buried, to derail people, to deflect, to sidetrack us on that. So that's why it's important. Go to whitehouse.gov, look it up. You can show your friends and family. You have data and information, because so many of us faced so many battles alone in families and friends, and trying to say, please use discretion. Please make sure you do your research and understand what you're doing to your body. Please understand, they said one shot was going to take care of it. Then it was 2 shots. Then it was 3 shots. Then it was 1 every year. And now they want children to get it. And remember, the death rate on this was barely anything at a certain age. And under, like it was in the 70s and 80s, barely anything, 99% survival rate. And yet they want to keep giving it to babies. Remember, it's money and everything else. It's not that everybody in the world is corrupt, but there are an awful lot of people in power that have billions to be made. And when they dictate to us what we need to do with our health, when it was an experiment and they were kept flip-flopping on what they were saying, some people, because of fear, didn't keep a record of what Fauci was saying and Birx, and how they kept flip-flopping what they were saying. People just believed them blindly, wholeheartedly, and it caused a lot of problems in families and friendships. It tore families apart. We just know the horrific things that have happened with COVID. I don't need to rehash them. But what I'm saying is, from this point forward, we have documentation, data, and information. It's not opinion. It's not left against right. It's about keeping our freedom of choice and freedom of speech. And that is basically what we are fighting for again in this country through this Trump administration. It isn't one-sided. It is, no matter what you think, we all should have the freedom, without being threatened with our lives, without being censored and quieted, without being threatened with our jobs, losing our jobs because we didn't take shots that were experimental and not sure. And right there on the front page, you see that if it is a natural virus to go around, it would show up. And here it is, 2025, and they still don't have it. Right there is the nail in the coffin of these COVID people who pushed these shots. So that's what I have for you today. I think a lot of good information for you guys to dive into, data. Like I said, it's not opinions, it's fact, it's data. And it's been a long road to get here, but I think that the tide is turning. I am eternally optimistic. I'm hopeful, and stay in prayer that things will be exposed, that good will win over evil, because that is really what this is a battle for, and for our children and grandchildren to get this country back and to make sure their voices are heard, their wants for their bodies and what they take as far as human or health choices are under their own guise, not under the government's choice. So that's what I have. I'll be back tomorrow, you guys, Wednesday, April 23rd at noon Eastern Standard Time here on the LWN Network with another version of Headline Hits. Thank you guys so much for joining me now. Thank you for those of you who are joining me later on Rumble, X, and on YouTube. Take care. God bless. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.